It's now time to bring you the feature on the show today as we focus on Nigeria's state of the economy. Now, Russia's military invasion into Ukraine has put the global economy in a case of one step forward and two steps backward. Now, this continues to rattle global financial markets and exacerbate supply chain disruptions. Now, it has also triggered a surge in energy and commodity prices, essentially compounded existing inflation concerns. Now, in the same vein, commodity prices are reaching new record levels. Now, for Nigeria, the latest consumer price index, which measures inflation, has increased to 15.7% for the month of February. And then we're also looking at other details as well, as we've seen a 1.63% move in terms of the earlier record of 1.47 in the month of February. For the urban inflation as well, we had it in February move up 16.25%. Well, joining me now to discuss this and much more, looking at the state of inflationary pressure in the country and the likely impact of the Russia-Ukraine crisis in exacerbating this pressure, I have with me Olusegun Elemo, a public finance and policy analyst, joining me virtually. Thank you very much for joining us on the Breakfast Show this morning, Olusegun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, with this most recent report that we have for inflation, there are forecasts really now that the energy shock, supply chain crisis, and then trade shocks as well, due to this whole Russia-Ukraine crisis, would lead to a huge spike in terms of inflation, which would last for about 6 to 8 months. What are your thoughts really on the global economy and Nigeria's inflation pattern we'll see? Do you think it will mimic this projection where we're going to see some sharp movement of inflationary pressure?
Thank you for that question. It just goes to show again that our economy responds to every external pressure and influence that occurs. It appears that the Nigerian economy is not in itself stable, to withstand all of these external issues and aggressions, that come against it. For instance, it would have been, if we had local refineries that could meet, for instance, local demand for energy, PMS, diesel, or whatever, the pressure would have been, sort of minimized than what we are experiencing right now. But again, it is expected that if the economy, for instance, some of the key drivers that are, pushing this inflation up as we see currently is, for instance, the energy issue that we are currently faced with, and you can see it on the street. And then again, the issue around infrastructure deficit, talking about local refineries. And then again is, currency instability and the issue we are faced with the exchange rate. But again is that if we had local refineries that could meet local demand for energy, then we would have been able to withstand whatever pressure the Russia and Ukraine crisis would have thrown against us. And it is sad that we are producing crude at this volume, but we cannot refine our own crude to meet local consumption. And it would have been a strategic move if we had fixed local refineries and by now have begun to export even derivatives from crude oil to other neighboring countries. And that would have also helped in terms of revenue mobilization to the country, because right now we also have revenue crisis. But it is expected, and we don't know how long it's going to last. We're hoping that something happens with Russia and Ukraine as quickly as possible, such that the current war that is happening there is brought under control, and that can also free up the supply chain for energy products, and maybe perhaps it will help us to reduce inflation. But this is not the way to continue to run an economy.
Okay, now talking about how to run the economy, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria is announcing its decision today after the two-day deliberations. We had previously, a few days ago, the IMF meeting with African ministers, finance ministers, and central bank governors. Now, in terms of the same old narrative, we've had this conversation before. How much of arsenals are left for the MPC to explore, especially at this time where we have to rein in inflation and also stabilize the market, because this external shock has a timeline no one can predict. We cannot tell how long this Russia-Ukraine crisis is going to last for. Hence, we cannot even tell how sharp the next inflationary pressure is going to be or how long it's going to last. So even this 6 to 8 month period where we are having forecasts of sharp movement of inflation, it's nothing to go by if this war continues much longer than anticipated, beyond all of the sidelines of peace talks, really.
The CBN really has to, and the committee now in specific, has to really weigh all the options. But there are very limited options for it because, you see, I heard the central bank governor yesterday saying that he was going to meet with the NNPC leadership. The committee has to really weigh all the options, on its table. And like I said, there are very limited options. Now, it is considering some pushes here and there around the parameters. But if the parameters will hold as it is currently, I don't know how long we're able to hold those parameters. But if those parameters will hold, it will be, the committee will be expecting that the pressure that is coming externally will be reduced or somewhat, put to a hold, and that is, of course, with the issue of Russia and Ukraine. The Russia and Ukraine issue is not just about energy; it's also about food, and it appears that the Nigerian, agricultural market or the Nigerian agricultural strength has still not been to that level where it can meet local demands. To be able to cater to all our needs.
Exactly.
So we're still going to depend on importation of food products, and if we're going to do that, and there are no, and then there is this other pressure on the foreign exchange reserve, and then again the forex market is also facing its own pressure and all of that. It then means that the committee has to weigh all these options and take the best decision at this time. But like I said, the options are very, very, very limited.
Talking about how limited things as well, Mr. Lemo, like you've also made mention of, we have to face the reality that we have a food crisis as we speak today. Now, looking at this Russia-Ukraine crisis and the inflationary pressure, again, the major impact is on food inflation, which is a major strain in terms of import and export. Now, we're looking at the likes of wheat, barley, rye, fertilizer, and a whole lot more from Ukraine and Russia, where we largely import as well from. So with all of these issues, how do you see us also building a bigger support base within the short term, like so many have also analyzed as well? The first half of this year is only the period where we're going to see active policy directions play out and any blueprints being consolidated on. And later, the remaining half, it's going to be heavy politicking. Hence, the economic agenda might be put on hold just to support what plays out in terms of politics. Now, in terms of food, how do you see us meandering through this? Because once food gets higher or much more expensive, the masses can barely have any other option. They're already paying more for energy, paying more for food, and now any other inflationary pressure in terms of food will mean that more will go hungry, really.
Absolutely. Only that it is not in the time of emergency that you should begin to strategize. You should strategize way ahead of emergency. Now we are in an emergency situation. We have food crisis on our hands. We have unemployment crisis on our hands. We have the energy crisis on our hands. And the energy crisis we are faced with right now is multidimensional. We have, the crude, the petroleum products crisis. We have, electricity crisis as well, because bulk of the economy depend on petroleum products to be able to survive and keep the economy going. So it is not now that we should now begin to strategize. Yes, we still have to strategize and see how best we can deal with the situation at hand. But like you said, politics is already here. I mean, we can see. I don't know how true it is, but I heard yesterday that there's a saying that the ASU strike will have to wait for certain political activities to hold before ASU can be attended to. So it then means that politics is beginning to take over the mainstream of activities in the country, and it is sad. But I would implore the president, because the president is not running again. He will need to ensure that his team continue to focus on the governance architecture of the country, because right now there is so much to deal with, and if we don't deal with those issues, it's going to deteriorate further. So we don't have the luxury of subjecting these economic decisions to political activities.
We definitely do not have the luxury of time. We need to take action to ensure that all of these pressures that we have, looking at the price of energy, food, and a whole lot more, is also reined in. Definitely, the global economy is also looking at reining in inflation, and Nigeria also has to take a step towards that. If not, it's going to be harder for the average Nigerian. Thank you once again for your time on the Breakfast Show this morning. We hope government is listening, and we'll also keep our tabs on the later deliberation and announcement from the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, which will be announced later today at about 2:30. Thank you once again, Olusegun Olemo.
Thank you for having me.